Welcome back to the garage, guys, for part 2 of the chassis build on this 1964 Beetle. We've got a bunch to do today. I left off in the last video. We had the floor pans in and everything was painted, but we still needed to mount those front coilovers, put the shifter in, the brake system, lines, and the pedal assembly. So let's get started. Stay tuned for the video. All right, we're starting out today with painting the emergency brake. I've got that cleaned up with the wire wheel on the grinder. We're gonna prime it and we're gonna spray it like an off-white color. Same with the shifter and the base of the shifter here. So that'll get painted in like an off-white, and then I'm gonna clear it with the 2-part clear coat. There we go. We've got the shifter painted up in the off-white with a 2-part epoxy clear coat, and the emergency brake handle should look really sharp with the black pans and the chassis with the white contrast. We'll give it a second to dry here, and then we'll get back with you and we'll install it. The shifter. While we are waiting for our shifter and the emergency brake clear coat to dry, I'm going to install the new master cylinder. We've got our bolts here, 13 millimeter. You've got these sleeves that go through the Napoleon's hat and into the master cylinder itself. Go ahead and slide this in. And then the bolts go through the inside to the outside. And we'll go ahead and snug them up. Figured I'd go ahead and install these front brake lines. So this is the back side of the brake cylinder. So we'll get this guy screwed in. And I've got my nice open end line wrenches, which make doing this kind of job pretty easy. Now we'll move to the other side. Pull this cap out. All right, now that we've got the brake lines screwed into the wheel cylinders, I'm gonna clip them into the chassis. Gonna tap them in like into the hammer. Perfect. Now we'll go around to the back and do the soft brake lines back there. These just get clipped in with the clips from here to here. So there's a hard brake line from here to the wheel cylinder, and then from here up to the splitter here. All right, so the soft brake lines in the rear go in here like this, and then the clips will hold those in. All right, let's tap these clips in, same way we did in the front. There you go, all our soft brake lines are in. Now we'll start working the solid brake lines, because I want to I need to put in this rear brake line that runs the length of the tunnel on the driver's side. Get that in before I put my pedal assembly in. However, before that, I want to do the seam sealer for the pans. So I think that'll be next, the seam sealer for the pans. Then we'll run that rear brake line from the front to the rear, and then I'll put the pedal assembly in, and then I think we'll run the rest of the solid brake lines. Let me show you my pedal assembly over here. So I've got this completely restored. I bought the kit that allows you to space out your clutch and your brake. I got that on eBay for guys with bigger feet where you need more space. It has a longer shaft that runs through here, and then you have this spacer to bridge that gap. There's your gas pedal, all cleaned and painted up. So this will be ready to go in soon. I just did the seam sealer around the edges. I taped off the pan to keep the excess off, and then just smoothed it with my finger with a glove on. And now I'm gonna peel the tape back. I've got the shifter back on. It's looking pretty good. I need to order a new rubber boot here. So now I'm gonna jack the car up with the engine lift and do the seams underneath the pans. It's a little bit more difficult. I wish I could just flip the pan over, it'd be a lot easier. But I think I'll do the same thing, tape underneath, so you can kind of be messy with it and peel the tape off and it comes off as a clean edge. All the seam sealer is put into the bottom here. Got a nice bead running down the tunnel on both sides between the tunnel and the pan. So now that I've got that done, I think next will be the hard brake line for the rear brakes, and then I can get the pedal assembly put in. Got my first solid brake line in. They're 11 millimeter. Just snugging these up. All right, so while we're doing these brake lines and waiting for the seam sealer to dry, I want to wait for it to dry really well, because before I do this brake line that runs to the rear, because it runs right over the seam sealer. So I'll probably wait till tomorrow on that, but I figured I'd put my throttle cable in, feed it in here. And you can show it coming out the back over there. There we go, that's it. brake lines are in. And we've got this rear hard brake line in. So tomorrow, I'll do the remaining rear brake lines and this one that runs from the rear along the tunnel to the master cylinder. And then once that's in, I'll put the pedal assembly in. I disconnected the clutch cable off of the transmission back there. And now I pulled the clutch cable out of here and I need to hook it to here. Yeah. This aftermarket shaft that runs through here is nice because it's got the nut on it instead of the hook, so you don't lose your clutch cable. All right, I'm gonna put some lithium grease on that. I was gonna say hook up the gas pedal, but I don't have it on here yet. Now you got your stop plate. This goes forward to prevent the brake from flopping forward like this. So right now I'm having trouble figuring out how this brake and clutch stop is supposed to go. So what it's supposed to do is prevent the pedals from moving further forward, because there's a piece here that's supposed to hit the stop, but it doesn't quite line up, so I'm gonna have to figure something out. But right now, they kind of flop forward, but I wanna see if I can get the gas pedal to fit here. A little easier to put the cable on with the cable out of the tube. So I need to attach this piece right here somehow to the floor. That's what the gas pedal pivots on. So I either screw that down or weld it, and then it pivots here. There's a pin that goes through here, and there's supposed to be a spring on the back of this too, and then you have the spring on the carburetor, which helps return the gas pedal. But that's how that works. There's also this pin for the master cylinder. Nice. See the brake pedal working. Clutch. Now I just need to get that stopping plate figured out back here so these pedals stay up in the upright position. But so for my stop plate here that keeps the brake pedal and clutch pedal from flopping forward, I had to fabricate myself out of like a piece of 18-inch or 18 gauge steel, because the the stock one didn't work with these floor pans, and then this modified extension. Now I'm gonna weld in the bracket here that holds, or the hinge that holds the gas pedal in place, you can see. So that's where the gas pedal pivots. So let's weld that guy in. Pedal assembly is completely in. Got your gas pedal here. It's pivoting well. There's a spring that's supposed to mount under here, which I need to get. I don't know what happened to the original one. See if I can find it, but that's supposed to help kick the pedal back, and then the carb is spring loaded also, so that helps. And we've got our brake pedal and the clutch. Before I put the rear brake line that runs from this flexible sock line to the backing plate to the wheel cylinder, I need to change out my seals in the swing axle here where the bearing is. I've got gear oil leaking out of there, and I want to get that fixed before I put the brake lines on, because it's a lot easier to remove the backing plate. So let's pull this drum off and get those seals changed. Got a seal kit right here. Now I should be able to get this whole backing plate off without removing the brake shoes, which will save me some time. We'll see if we can get this off. And now I got gear oil pouring out. Yeah, gotta jack it up. What a mess. seal on. Put my, doesn't seem to be leaking, we'll see over time if it's got a drip. Got our new castle nut here. All right, so in order to change these bump stops, I figured I'd use these ratchet straps and kind of ratcheted the suspension up. Now I'm heating the bump stop up, trying to get it a little bit more pliable so we can work it on here. I got my new bump stops on using the ratcheting method, ratchet strap method. Next, we're gonna do the front coilover shocks. We have our new shift boot here. Let's get this guy on. And this just kind of pops over that outside lip. I'm gonna put the camera down for a second. There we go, shift boot is on. I also got the boot for the emergency brake. Slide that guy on, and that'll get tucked under the carpet when we do that later on. Next, I plan on installing these coilover shocks. For an early swing axle car, they're the same for the front and the rear. The IRS car would have a threaded rod here that is designed to go in the front. But for the swing axle, they send you 2 of the same or 4 of the same shocks. However, the way this is designed down here, this works with the rear of the IRS. So for a swing axle car, for the front and the back, you need to trim off this excess and only leave maybe about a 1/16 of an inch sticking out. So I'm gonna get the grinder wheel, the cutoff wheel, and just cut those down, because that will not work with the length of the bolt here. If you slide that on, there's not going to be enough thread to make that work. I got the driver's side shock coilover on, and I'm going to show you how I did it with the passenger side here. So I went ahead and greased that bolt down there, that post, and have that flipped over. We'll just run this on. And then I'm going to put the nut on. Now that I've got the bottom secure, you can see how this does not line up with the post here and that hole there. So what I need to do is compress this down. I'm gonna run the ratchet strap over it, just ratchet strap it down. I'll have the bolt here ready to go. As soon as I think it's aligned, I'll go ahead and send it in. It's a little tricky getting this set up, but once you do, alright, I think I got it lined up. Make sure these are lined up straight. Okay. One more click, I think. There we go. Perfect, got it. Now we tighten it down and release the strap. All right, before I release the strap, I'll show you how it looks. So I've just got it over the top, over the bottom there. I've got the hooks on one side and the ratchet there. So both the shocks are on, and that's how you can compress the shocks using a ratchet strap. As we wrap up the brake line replacement, the last two I have are the brake lines that run from this flexible line to the wheel cylinder. We'll get those bent up. I'll show you how I plan to do that. With the brake lines earlier, I started out using this brake bending tool. This thing works great, but honestly, if you just carefully use your fingers, you can bend these. And I'll show you how I'm gonna do that. It's pretty smart, and I didn't do this, to save your old brake lines, and you can pretty much just make, or use that as your template. If you don't have the old ones, it's kind of guesswork, and you can slowly bend them and re-bend them to get them where you need to be. Or I'm gonna try this technique here, where I use a piece of flexible solder or any type of wire, and I'll pretty much just cut it the length of the brake line, and I can almost use this to form a nice template. So let's see how that works. All right, so for this brake line, we want to keep it away from the suspension for as long as possible. So I think it'll just come straight out, and then we'll kind of just bend it here. And let's see here. I have to curve it this way a little bit. Something like that. All right, let's go with that, and we'll see how that works. Gonna start by using this the brake bending tool to make that initial bend. So you can see, making it, it's pretty close. And now I'm just gonna replicate this bend by using my fingers here. Just make sure you're not kinking the line when you're doing this. Okay. Keep going. Pretty close. We are pretty close. Let's take it down there and see how it fits. Okay, at this point, let's see how we did. What I'm gonna do is just get it screwed into one side here. First, I gotta take out the bleeder valve. Snug that in down. And you just make minor adjustments. I'm pulling the clip off the flexible brake line. There we go. So by pulling the clip off, I was able to kind of maneuver this flexible line a little better to get the solid line to line up. We got it in and we got our clip back in, holding that in place. So there you go. Let's get the other side done. Well, that wraps up the brake line project. I also installed the grommet that goes in the top of the master cylinder, and we've got the supply line here, which I've got it capped off, but it'll hook to a flexible tube that'll go to the reservoir, and I'm going to try to hook that up temporarily so that we can maybe scoot this thing around with the body off eventually. Now that we wrapped up the brake lines, I know in my last video I had promised putting the engine on and getting this fired up. I wanted to do that in this video. I've just run out of time. I've got some other projects to handle for the next couple of weeks, and I will get back to this and we will get this engine on running and get those rear wheels turning, test the clutch, and maybe go up and down the driveway like I said in part one. But I've got something to show you that I think is pretty cool. So as I was testing the engine, I don't know if I mentioned it in one of my prior videos, but cylinder 3 had some really poor compression. So we've got some new 1240 horse cylinders and pistons from AA Performance. So once I get the engine on, probably in the next video, we'll run it, test it out, but see how the transmission shifts and all that. But this will be the next project, is to pull the cylinders off of the motor and put these guys on there. So that should be fun, something to look forward to. Yeah, AA performance. And these are the 40 horse, 77 millimeter cylinder heads, or cylinders. All right, well, that's gonna wrap this one up. All right, guys, well, that's gonna wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed the project so far. I wanna get to the engine here soon, but it's probably gonna be a couple weeks. I've got some other stuff going on, so I'll get back with you on that. Thanks for watching. Come back for the next one.